It's the sure sign of a good time. The just right taste of Bud Light. Here we go.
This is the Coach's Scouting Report, featuring Coach Rick Venturi on 101sports.com.
Welcome into the Scouting Report, along with 41-year coaching veteran Rick Venturi. I'm Zach McCright. The Rams got the Cardinals this week, a battle of 1-6 teams. But the Rams coming off a huge victory. I'm trying not to drink the Kool-Aid, Coach. Tell me why I should. Let's start with the defensive game plan for the Rams versus the Cardinals. And really it starts on special teams, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I think you really have to start your defense with special teams. You have Stevens Howlings, I call him Hyphen, who's one of the best kickoff return guys in the league. Has been for a long time. Very, very dangerous, like Darren Sproles. And now you have Patrick Peterson on the other side returning punts, who is absolutely spectacular. So if you're going to win the game, you're going to have to control those two guys. Peterson's return last week is as good as I've seen, Zach, in years and years and years.
And then, really, when you get to the defense for the Rams, there's really two guys on the Arizona offense that you really need to key on.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that they don't run the ball with Beanie Wells. They're going to try to beat you with Beanie Wells. They're having issues at quarterback, issues in the offensive line. They're going to try to maintain some ball control. And then you have the incomparable Larry Fitzgerald at wideout. You have some complementary players. You have Early Doucette, pretty good in the red zone. You have new tight end Rob Hosler. And then you have Stephen Hollings occasionally in there on third down. Be careful of a big play type shot to him. But basically, you've got to be able to stop those two guys. And that brings up, how do you stop the run and how do you help on Fitzgerald?
Well, tell us first about the run. I mean, how do you stop it? They really do it in a couple different formations, don't they?
They really do. They'll give you the multiple tight ends. They'll kind of bunch it up. You'll see clusters of three. They'll try to hammer in there with Wells, run some counter away from it, run some toss, but try to just ball control you there. You got to have a good eight-man front. This week I'd like to see Stewart in the game as the safety who comes down. I call it quarter, half, with the roll or the revolve always the other side to Fitzgerald, whether he's strong or weak, and make sure you can stop the run. Then expect them to open the formations with three wide receivers, spread you out a little bit, and try to run. Regardless, you've got to stop the north-south running lanes of Wells. Wells is a slasher. He's a one-cut, powerful guy. If you can stretch him to the sidelines, then you turn him into a pursuit drive.
Now, on the pass, tell me specifically what you'd like to do against Larry Fitzgerald.
Well, I think you must always at least lean a safety to him. Preferably, you give different looks on double coverage if you can. If it were me, I would match Al Harris on him regardless, okay? Because I think
whichever
side he went to. I doubt that they'll do that. It's just my thinking, because Harris is on his game. Harris has those big, long arms. He plays with length. He can get your hands on him. I think he can jam him. Now, what I've always felt against Fitzgerald, you need a harasser down low and you need a guy on top, and that would be Michael, because even if you hold him up at the line, he's very adept. He's like a power forward to a center in basketball. You've got to have somebody who can come in and finish the play.
Defensive line had a great week last week against the Saints, but how does this defensive line do it again?
Well, it's very important that they pick up right where they left off. I wish you could have played this game right at the fifth quarter last week, because Long and Quinn and James Hall, they were outstanding last week. And they can have the same kind of game. The weakest part of the Arizona team is that offensive line. If you can get them particularly into those second and longs, those third and longs. Levi Brown is really struggling on the left side. For a guy who's been a good player, struggling on pass protection. Right side, they're really having trouble with Keith, and could get another good game out of Chris Long. I've likened these guys to 5 elephants. They're huge. If you try to run through them, you ain't going anywhere, but they're elephants with their legs chained to the ground. They can't move. So you got to give them all kinds of movement, and they'll struggle with it.
Let's move over to the offensive side of the field, Coach, for the Rams against the Arizona defense. And really, with the Arizona defense, we talked about 2 guys, really, with the Arizona offense. With the Arizona defense, you're keying on 4 guys.
I think you got to think 4 guys. This is a new system. They brought Ray Horton in from Pittsburgh to put in the Pittsburgh 3-4. So it's a new system. They're semi-adapted to it, not totally. They don't look crisp, but they're on their way. But there are 4 guys that you have to count for. Obviously, Adrian Wilson, I call him the Ram killer because he's had great games here. You've got to account for him every play, whether it's in the back end, but particularly when he gets around the line of scrimmage. Tremendous blitzer. He can raise hell. I like Darrell Washington. Of their linebacker core, which is really old and aging, I like Washington. He goes sideline to sideline. And then you got the 2 defensive linemen, Darnell Dockett and Calais Campbell. Now, those guys are in a new system. I think it's particularly hurt Dockett. Dockett has played more, and he's really a tackle. So I don't think he's played as well in the base 3-4, but when they get into the blitz package and those 2 guys become interior alignment again when they're there, they can really raise hell. So no matter the system, those 4 guys you have to count for.
Man, I tell you, it was fun getting to watch Steven Jackson be Steven Jackson again, and that's really where it all starts with the Rams offense.
It really does. Even though the stats look good and this system is built to stop the run, the Rams have to run it with Jackson, and they have to come up with a different plan. This week, I say this. You want to keep multiple tight ends. You want to cover up those hybrids, those big guys, Porter, Hagans, those guys that are there to rush the passer. I like you to run the ball weak, because the Pittsburgh pressure, Arizona pressure now will come from the inside or from the field. And then at times I want you to open with your base personnel, open the formation, get those big outside guys to have to walk out in space, both pass and run. That's not what they get paid for. If you can make them play in space, that's why you like to screen every once in a while, make them run. That's where they're at their weakest.
The Cardinals have been, one of their weakest points has been their pass defense. So what are the couple big things that you can really do to exploit that pass defense?
I think there's really 3 things. First of all, they lost Rogers Cromartie. They haven't been really good at corner. Peterson will be a great corner. He's not a great corner yet. He struggles at the line of scrimmage. Now he can outrun his mistakes, so he's a guy you better throw on quick if you beat. Jefferson on the other side has really struggled. So particularly on early downs, I'm going to try to take my shots to Lloyd or whoever ends up playing out on the other side, because I think they're going to do some doubling to Lloyd. So you want to get your flanker, your tight end. You're going to get more one-on-one coverage. The better Lloyd plays, the more one-on-one you're going to get with your tight end and your flanker. You got to think a step ahead, because you're going to start to get some doubles to Lloyd from that standpoint. Also, those big guys, those hybrids I'm talking about, they have a hard time back in the second level. You saw it at Washington. Those guys have trouble because they want to be rushing. And then the other thing is, I would take advantage of a really good player, Darrell Washington, who as a young kid is overly aggressive at times. I would really play action him, throw against the grain, get him to over pursue, and then hit in with those tight ends behind him.
Okay, so the Rams are going to run into some third downs. There's no doubt about that. How can they keep the offense on the field in those situations?
Well, hopefully they're 3rd and 3s versus 3rd and 7s. If you're 3rd and 3, you have a 75% chance historically to make it. You go 3rd and 7, it goes up exponentially, almost to 75% for the defense. So I think if you're 3rd and long, there's 2 things you got to do. And I say it every week, be careful with the football. Don't give it up like you did last week one time. That might be the killer. Continue to screen. Salas is getting better and better outside. We didn't want to throw screens to the wideouts, but Salas is picking it up. As many times as I can get Jackson out there on 3rd and long, I'm going to get him and let him run for it. I'm going to throw a few more catch and run plays rather than always have to try to hold the ball and push it downfield. When I do push it downfield, I'm not afraid of their corners, so I'm going to go a little bit more maximum protection. I keep talking about that 7- and 8-man protection, get in bunches and stacks, because the one thing the Arizona defense tries to do is they try to sort routes, sort them out, and match them. So you want to give them a tough releases coming off the line of scrimmage.
Tell me about the Arizona defense. You keep on mentioning the Pittsburgh style, and obviously they've done that with the new defensive coordinator. But really, what does it all entail?
Well, what the Pittsburgh style is a form of a 3-4 defense. In other words, you're 3 down linemen, and then you have 4 linebackers, and it all starts with big guys that are kind of in between ends and backers. I refer to them as hybrids. They're really there to rush the passer. And because it's a 3-4, there's a lot of blitzing involved. 2 linebackers, a linebacker safety. So it's a pressure 3-4. It's not a Belichick 3-4. It's not a Dallas 3-4. It really is a movement 3-4. Now, at this point, the only way they resemble the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is they both play on Sundays. Okay? So they're certainly not
it.
They're certainly not there yet, and that's why I think it's so important to think personnel in this one even more than system.
A.J. Feely last week as a starter, 3 for 3 in the red zone for the Rams. That's got to be a big key again this week.
Terrific job. I think whoever wins the red zone, whether it's the Rams defense or the Rams offense, whoever scores 7 or forces 3 is going to win this football game. And I am confident. I thought A.J. did a great job, but I think the Rams, for the first time, maybe in 6 years, since Isaac and Torrey, basically were in their heyday, they finally have a 3-pronged, the ability to get it in there. 1, a healthy Jackson, so you got to be able to run it. The number 2 thing that they have not had for years, all of a sudden Brandon Lloyd gives you the outside fade game. Yes. I've been talking about it for 2 years.
Thank you.
Last week we go out and get it. He even adjusts it. He turns it into an inside fade. He gets there. And then the third thing is the guy that's coming. That's Salas. Once you either run the ball, throw it outside, and if they spread the safeties to cover the outside, now you got to get that inside choice game, and that's Salas. Salas is becoming a Danny Amendola. Got to utilize, but that's the 3-pronger that you finally have.
Check out all of this and a whole lot more on 101sports.com. Rick's got an entire diatribe. I am telling you, he's got it down to a T on 101sports.com, and we'll be back to talk about it on Monday on Zach and the Coach from 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time. For the Coach, Rick Venturi, I'm Zach McCright. That's been the Scouting Report on 101 ESPN.